Hi, my name's Steve and welcome to the Seaside Allotment channel. And today we're planting elephant garlic, softneck and hardneck, and broad beans. And we're planting them on Jennie's plot in the bed where we had the leeks, 50% of which went to seed. So we harvested the rest of them, so we got a bit of extra space. And we had we had a few brassicas, but mostly we had beetroot. So that's all gone, it's in store. So we've got a nice big bed and we're going to get planted. Now, unfortunately, Jennie has fractured her kneecap and so she can't do any planting. So it's all down to me again. And I'm looking forward to it because I really like planting, although she does as well. So it's a bit of a shame. But she is healing. And she's getting married a week on Tuesday, so she better heal up fast so we're not taking any risks. Now, we like planting garlic and broad beans. They're a really useful crop because they're out of the ground by July, and that means we can plant the main crop, beetroot, the crop that we store, and the purple sprouting broccoli and spring winter cabbages. So they're kind of perfectly timed, those two crops, for those two things, and that's obviously why we overwinter them, because if we were planting them in February, March time, then they wouldn't be ready in time for those late crops. So yeah, we really like them. It's perfect timing for us, because as a family we love beetroot, so we're always eating beetroot, so we can never really grow enough of that for everybody. But we keep giving it a go, and next year we're going to plant a little bit more. So I'm going to get on now and I'll come back and just tell you how it went. So this is the collection that I've got to plant today. I've got broad beans. I could all see about 120 something of those. Loads of garlic and a mix of softneck and hardneck garlic. And these are my spares. I don't know how many I'm going to need, but I've got plenty of spares here. And then these are no escapes, so I guess they're the softnecks. And then I've got these, which are the elephant garlic, and I've got a lot of mono bulbs, and I've got a few cloves. So there we go. And I've got my small dibber, and I got my big dibber, and then for planting the garlic I've got my trusty trowel, so the elephant garlic. And this here is the bed that I'm planting on. I'm going to take these few strawberries out and transplant those. So I'm going to plant, what I've decided to do is I'm going to plant the broad beans all the way along the fence. I was going to just plant them there, but then I realised it's way easier to support them if I just plant them along the fence. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to plant them 3 rows. Now that's a bit of a hassle, picking the innermost row, but what we tend to find is that, you know, what we need for day-to-day harvests we'll be able to pick from the edge. So we put a little path down the centre, so from this edge, this side, and then we can just leave the ones on the innermost rows to mature, and then they'll all be picked all at the same time, or over a few days for freezing. So I think it'll work out fine, and it just keeps them sort of out the way, and as I say, it makes them really easy to support from a wind perspective. So I'm going to do that, and then obviously the garlic is going to be on this part of the bed, and this side here will be where the shallots and elephant garlic and things like that will go. So I'm going to get on with that. So the broad beans need to be 2 inches deep, which is about that, and 9 inches apart. And I'm actually, you can do them on 9-inch rows, but I think I'm going to do them about 6 inches away from the fence, and then 10-inch rows just to give them a little bit of extra space because I've got the room. So I've just given the bed a good rake level with the back of my rubber rake. That's the spacing I'm going to use. So I'm going to get the bin. So that's the holes all dibbed. And I'm out of breath from doing it. And I'm a big fan of seaweed meal. So I'm going to sprinkle that on the surface, and some of it will go in the holes, of course. And then when I rake the holes full, it'll rake in the seaweed meal as well. Beans don't need much fertiliser, but they do need micronutrients, so that's what the seaweed meal delivers. So that's the seaweed meal on. And I'm an absolute nut for micronutrients in the soil, because we're pretty much self-sufficient in veg. Well, we are really, and because of that, we get in all of our nutrients from such a small area of ground, and it's rubbish sandy soil as well, so it's really nice to make sure that you're getting plenty of additional nutrients and not just recycling the ones that are already in the soil. So yeah, I'm going to get on and get these planted. So there we go. Doesn't matter which way you put them in, they're just fine. I mean, I'm an 80-20 gardener. I just do the 20% of effort that delivers the 80% of results, and I don't really care about getting everything absolutely perfect. I don't use straight lines. I don't measure the distance between the planting holes. As I say, I don't care which way the beans go in. I'm just lazy. So that's the broad beans in. Now, I thought I would just show you the field beans. So field beans are in the same family as broad beans, but their pods are much smaller and the beans themselves are much smaller. And that doesn't matter because you don't grow field beans for the beans. You grow them for the tops, which are great for composting, and the roots, which are full of nitrogen. And you harvest them, chop them down before the flowers come out, really. And that maximises the amount of nitrogen that's left in the nodules on the roots. And you can see this is our rough and ready way of planting, and it's not too bad. Lots of people ask what these paving slabs for. Well, they're just for me to stand on when I'm doing the harvest, because here we just want to maximise harvest. We don't want these plants to grow very tall, so they're easy for us to step over. We just harvest them when they're a little bit bigger than this, but basically we just harvest in these tips. And it just means I can stand like this in the middle and get to the middle of the bed to do the harvest, and I get the maximum yield. So there we go, that's the garlic bed prepared. Just the same with the back of the rubber rake. So there's my row markers, so I'm doing these 8 inches apart. And this is the elephant garlic row, so that's 8 inches, but it's got infinite amount of space on the other side, so that should be fine. And then the garlic is spaced at 6 inches. Some people do it 4, but I've got a lot of space here, so I'm going to do it 6 inches apart. And the elephant garlic I'm going to do 12 inches apart. So if I run out, then I'm just going to fill it in with shallots and overwintered onions. So that's all those holes dibbed. Now, onions, I think, you benefit from a bit of fertiliser at this time of year, because what they need to do is put on a reasonable amount of green growth, and then in about February time, I think something like sulphate of potash or something like that people generally recommend. I generally don't bother, but I just like to give them a good start, and so consistent with my seaweed theme, I use this seaweed and manure mix. Nice slow release. So unlike broad beans, it does matter which way you plant the garlic. That's the bottom, that's the top, and you want the tip about of the elephant garlic about 4 centimetres below the soil line. So these dipped holes are not deep enough, but I've got my little spade just to deepen them up a little bit. So there we go, that's all raked in, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased. So there's 4 rows of garlics, and they're all a mix of hardneck and softneck because they weren't sorted out at harvest time. Although this last 2 is mainly softnecks, and then down to that little stake there, they're elephant garlic, and then towards the end that's back to garlic again. So pretty much all of this is garlic, and all of that is beans. Now the problem is, having disturbed this soil, the birds, the foxes, the cats, everything will want to now come and dig in it. And so my neighbour over here said that put stakes down, put canes down on the floor. So we're going to do that, and yeah, get on with that now. There we go, that's all done. And Jenny's going to be really annoyed because she really likes planting, but fractured kneecaps mean that she's out of action at the moment for a few more weeks. The last little bit of the garlic story, basically all the way around the edge of this bed, all the way down the back there, I've planted garlic, they're just the little tiny cloves that I've got left over, I think about 50 of them, and they're planted every 2 inches, so really close together, just right at the edge basically, kind of here, and they'll grow on and be harvested as green garlic nice and early. So by the time our garlic in store is looking a bit worse for wear, then we'll have lovely green garlic just to chop up in stir fries and things like that. And yeah, that gets us through then until the main crop garlic is ready to harvest. And unless, in case you've not done green garlic before, all it is you harvest it before the bulbs have split into multiple cloves, so you get a single bulb and you get all the green top. And so yeah, hopefully we'll have that nice and early. So I'm really pleased with that. I think that's the biggest planting of garlic and broad beans that we've ever done. So we always like to kind of up our game every year. Now there are a few things that we usually plant that we're not planting as much of. So we're not planting anywhere near as many overwintered onions or overwintered shallots. We didn't find the overwintered shallots kept as well as we'd like them to do, but the spring planted shallots were fine, and so we are planting some. I think we're going to plant about 30. We're going to sneak those in various places around the plots, and yeah, the overwintered onions. So again, there's not a lot of point because they don't keep as well as the main crop onions planted in the spring, and we generally have main crop onions within a month of the overwintered ones. And so really all we're doing this year is we're just planting about 6 weeks supply of main crop of overwintered onions, and they're all actually planted now, and not in any particular bed, they're just sort of scattered around the 3 plots. So yeah, so that's a big change, and that means we're planting more garlic and more broad beans as a result of that. And because last year we just threw a lot of overwintered onions out. Also what we're doing is we're planting a lot more stir-on spring onions, because they're great, because if you overplant spring onions, and we often do that just in case because we love spring onions, then you can just thin those out and they will just grow on, and you can harvest those as early main crops. So you know, they're pretty much ready at the same time as Japanese onions, because you're sowing them at the same time, you know, in October. So yeah, pretty pleased. That is almost all of my planting done on all 3 plots now. There's just a handful of things. I've got some beetroot that I'm overwintering. I'm just waiting for some space to open up for those. And I've got, what else have I got? Well, I've obviously got my spring cabbages, but I've got no space for those yet, so I'm waiting for the things like the radicchio to be harvested in sort of December, January time, and that's, you know, so in February time, that's when I'll put my spring cabbages in. And I'm just looking around, yeah, just all this early spring brassicas really still to go in, but they're not going to go in until next year. So pretty much for this year, I'm almost done. I've got a few radishes to go in. Yeah, it's great. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of the season, you know, we relax a bit now. Harvest rates obviously have dropped a bit. We're down to about £140 worth of veg a week now. So it's much, you know, it's much more relaxed. So yeah, with that, I think I'll stop rambling, and I'll see you soon.